There is one thing that every single person listening to me right now is afraid of, whether they will admit it out loud or not. And it is the one thing that not a single one of us gets out of. I am 101 years old, which means I am standing closer to it than anybody you have ever met in your life. And I am going to tell you the plain truth that it took me a whole century to learn. It is not what you think it is. The fear of it is a lie, and that lie quietly robbed me of more good years than I will ever be able to get back. What finally set me free from it is not what the preachers will tell you, and it is not what the doctors will tell you either. It is one plain thing that 50 years on the railroad taught me, and I am going to hand it to you straight before we are through. My name is Virgil. For 50 years I ran the locomotives out across the flat, open prairie of the middle of this country. And out there on the railroad we had a name for the last stop on any run. We called it the end of the line. Every train that ever rolled, no matter how long the haul, no matter how much it carried, came at last to the end of its line. And what I want to talk to you about tonight is the end of yours and the end of mine, and why I am not the least bit afraid of it anymore. Now, I was not always this way. I want to be honest with you because there is no use lying to you at my age. For most of my life, that fear sat in me like a coal in the belly of the engine, always burning, low and steady, underneath everything else. I did not talk about it. Men of my time did not. But it was there. And do you know what I did with it? I ran from it the only way I knew how. I stayed busy. I filled every timetable. I made up lost minutes on every run. I kept moving, fast and hard, because a moving man does not have to sit still and think about where the tracks finally end. That is the great secret about a whole lot of hurrying, and I did not understand it until I was old. A good part of all that rushing was just running from the end of the line. I thought I was being a hard worker, a provider, a serious man, and some of that was true. But underneath, I was a scared man trying to outrun the one thing on this earth that no train has ever once outrun. So here is the turn, and it is the whole reason I am sitting here talking to you. Out on the railroad, the end of the line was never a thing to be afraid of. Think about that. A railroad man does not dread the last station. The last station is not a wreck. It is not a crash in the dark. It is the place the whole run was always headed, the place where the passengers finally get down and go home, the place where a tired engineer finally sets the brake and rests. The end of the line was never the disaster. It was the arrival. And it took me the better part of 100 years to understand that the same is true of a life. The fear, you see, was the only real wreck, not the destination, the fear. All those years I spent dreading the last station, I was not riding my own life at all. I was bracing for a crash that was never coming, and I missed the country going by outside the window the whole time. Let me tell you what happens to a man when he finally sets that fear down. The first thing is, you start to see the miles you are actually on. For 50 years I ran this prairie, and I could not have told you what it looked like, because my eyes were always fixed down the track on what was coming. And part of what was coming was the end. When I finally quit being afraid of the last station, I lifted my eyes up, and I saw the country for the first time. The light on the wheat, the way the sky goes on forever out here. A whole world I had been rolling straight through and never once looking at. There is a stretch of track east of where I live where the land drops away and you can see 40 miles of open country at a single glance. And in 50 years of running it, I never truly saw it until I was far too old to run it anymore. That is what the fear costs a man. It does not just frighten you at the end. It blinds you the whole way there. And here is the next thing. When you stop fearing the end of the line, you quit being a miser with your days. A frightened man hoards his time. He clutches at it. He counts it. He lies awake adding up how much he has got left. And all that counting is just fear wearing a wristwatch. But once I let the fear go, I stopped hoarding my days and I started spending them. And a day spent well on a person you love or a quiet morning you actually taste is worth 10 days hoarded in a drawer out of fear of running out. Now I have got to speak on the hardest part of this, and I will not put a shine on it because I promised you the truth. My Opal, my wife of more than 60 years, she reached the end of her line a few years before me. And when a man loses the one who rode beside him the whole way, the fear comes back, and it comes back hard. I will not tell you it did not, but sitting with that loss, slow, over these last few years, is a strange thing that also softened the fear of my own end, because I do not believe Opal was destroyed at that last station. I believe she simply got down at a stop a little ahead of mine, and I have come to feel, in a way I cannot fully explain to you, that she is just up the line, waiting on the platform. I cannot prove that to you. I would not try. But I will tell you it is the difference between a man afraid of the dark and a man walking toward a lit window with somebody he loves inside it. And here is a thing I know for certain, a thing 50 years of railroading taught me plain. What matters at the end of the line was never the tonnage you hauled. Nobody at the last station asks how much freight you carried, or how fast you made your runs, or how many zeros were on your final pay. Not one soul. What matters, the only thing that matters when the brakes finally set, is who rode along with you. The people in the cars behind you, the ones you shared the miles with. Everything else, every bit of the cargo I spent my life so worried about, gets left in the yard. Only the people go on with you to the end. I have sat at more than one bedside in my long life, and I will tell you this plain. I never once heard a dying man call out for his money, or his medals, or his fine big house. Not one time. I heard them call for their people. A name said soft, a hand to hold in the dark. That is the whole of it, laid bare right there at the last station. And a man is a fool to wait until then to learn a thing so simple. I think about the whistle, too, more than I used to. Out on a night run, a long way from any town, an engineer blows the whistle into the dark. And it is not a fearful sound. It is not a scream. It is a way of saying, I am here. I am still coming. The train is still running true. That is about how I feel now about the years I have got left. I am here. I am still coming down the line. And when the last station shows its lights up ahead, I mean to roll into it, easy, on time, the way a good engineer always brings her in, without slamming the brakes, without fear, just a slow, gentle stop at the place I was always going. Now let me be square with you, so you do not think I have got this all conquered and tied up in a bow. The old fear has not gone silent all the way. There are nights once in a while when I wake in the dark and that old coal glows up again in me, and for a minute I am a young, scared man once more, bracing for the crash. Setting down a fear you carried for 90 years is not a thing you finish. It is a thing you keep on doing, night after night. I have not beaten the fear. I have just made my peace with it, and most days now, peace is enough. So here is what I believe, and I give it to you humble, from the far end of a very long line. The end you are so afraid of is not the wreck you have been picturing your whole life. It is a station. It is the arrival. It is the place the whole run was always headed, and you were built to reach it, the same as every train ever built was built to reach its last stop. The fear was the only real disaster, and the fear is the one thing you actually get to set down before you get there. So do not spend the good miles you have left bracing for a crash. that is not coming. Lift your eyes up off the track ahead. Look out the window at the country going by, because it is beautiful, and it is going by right now, whether you are watching it or not. Spend your days instead of hoarding them, and hold on tight to the people riding in the cars behind you, because they are the only cargo that goes all the way to the end with you. If riding along with an old railroad man was worth your time tonight, I would be glad of your company on the rest of these talks. Stay on for another, and go on and subscribe if it suits you, and if nothing else, leave a little like before you climb down, so this finds the next soul out there riding scared. The light is good, the track is clear, and I will see you on down the line.